Welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest along with Mike Lubie Lubitz. Happy to be with you here on nofilter.net as we are on the precipice, the eve, as we will have the World Series contested. And it all gets underway tonight. The vaunted Texas Rangers against the much heralded Arizona Diamondback team that came out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, 125 to 1 before the season started to win the World Series. Only a nutbag diehard fan would have had money on that. What do you think, Mike Lubie? It's 125 to 1. And those people, no doubt, are asking themselves very heavily, if they haven't addressed this already, to hedge or not to hedge.
I don't think they're asking anything.
125 to 1. I don't care how little money you have on that. I'm hedging off some of that money on the Texas Rangers if I'm an Arizona Diamondbacks backer. Of course, we got involved at 50 to 1 before the postseason, only because we thought, well, some long shots maybe due here. It's not going to be the Marlins at 50 to 1. Arizona Diamondbacks, it's not going to be them either, but go ahead and take a shot. And next thing you know, we're on the doorstep of greatness, my friends. The pearly gates are possibly about to open if somehow the Diamondbacks can combine the Texas Rangers. So the question also has to be asked by us, Mike Lubie Lubitz, to hedge or not to hedge? That is the question. And I'm thinking, weak-minded human being that I am, I'm hedging that.
Yes,
But would you
yes.
press it? I mean, that would really take some serious balls to press it, right? Kind of like betting your alma mater if it's Syracuse after last night's bludgeoning again at the hands of Virginia Tech. Oh my God, such ugliness. It's tough out there. I mean, to have allegiance to any team. So we don't care, actually. If we hedge off a little bit, it would be a lot better for us if the Arizona Diamondbacks prevailed. But we don't have that kind of luck, do we, Louie? We just don't have that kind of luck. Anyway, that's happening tonight. Nobody seems to care because there's a full slate of NFL action on tap. There was a game last night.
Yes.
And we were mentioning yesterday that we were talking to some handicappers and their advice. I mean, this is universal. It's almost like I can hear my grandmother on her deathbed saying to me, Jeff, always take the points. Grandma, I mean, unbelievable. That's your advice? Always take the points?
Her last words.
Her last words. And she vanished into that great beyond. She's probably, with the big casino in the sky, associated some way with their sports betting operation. Always take the points, which last night I was never more in evidence. I thought the Buffalo Bills were annihilating. They were just literally smoking like salmon.
Yep.
Would you like to try the smoked salmon? It's quite delicious tonight. No, I don't want a pink fucking fish. Like smoked salmon, the Buffalo Bills were destroying in every aspect statistically, you would have to say. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who look to be inept. I know you're not a big Baker Mayfield fan. I don't know. Do we feel some empathy for Baker Mayfield because he was good in those Home Depot commercials?
I liked him in the commercials. I liked him coming out of college. It's just he hasn't progressed. I watched him and I'm like, he's been in the league a handful of years now, maybe 6 years now, and he doesn't look better. He looks worse.
Not sure how easy it is to look good in this Tampa Bay offense right now. Although they do have Mike Evans and they do have Tristan Wirfs along the offensive line. It's not like they have a shoddy offensive line. He was under some pressure last night from the Buffalo Bills defense, which is suspect also because of injuries. And yet, in watching that game, how is it possible that it was like 3-0 after the first quarter, when the Bills, every time they had the ball, they just marched it down the field like there was no defense on the opposite side whatsoever. And then, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it seemed like they were going 3 and out from their own 3-yard line the entire first half. In fact, throughout the complete ball game, they were always in a compromising position, and yet they nearly won the fucking thing.
Yep.
The chalk players were being carried out of casinos again in body bags as the Buffalo Bills won the game, seemed to win it, handily, and yet had to survive a last-second Hail Mary that, nearly, if any Hail Mary was going to work, it wasn't Aaron Rodgers. It was this one. Baker Mayfield throws a perfect pass to a guy that has nobody around him, like the entire defense had disappeared. And the receiver doesn't turn around at the goal line. Maybe he just got there as the ball was landing in the end zone, but it landed cleanly with nobody getting near it. And the only guy close to it was a Tampa Bay wide receiver who had run down the field. And imagine if you had lost that game outright on the money line.
Oh my
How
God.
sick would you feel?
Oh my God.
A Dilaudid drip would not be enough to ease the pain and soothe the emotional harm that had been done to you because it was impossible to lose from that position. I dug the guy with the big chicken wing on his head. Is that a thing there in Buffalo?
I
Have you seen the
guess.
fan in the stands? Had a giant drumette on his head, and you would have thought that he was associated with the Anchor Bar, where the chicken wing discovery was made when they said, "Hey, we're out of chicken." And somebody turned around and said, "Yeah, well, we got some parts there in the trash. Why don't you dig them up? We'll fry them." And they did. And, desperation sometimes is the perfect mother of invention. It's great. All right. We need to look at the NBA, Louis, a little bit. As we talked about it yesterday, and there was a big slate of games on a Wednesday card, just a couple of games going last night. But you did have the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers. And this was a hot topic in our hometown, this whole Damian Lillard thing. And what does Lillard do? He goes for 39 points. He looks like the reincarnation of the career of Michael Jordan in his prime. And the Milwaukee Bucks, though, barely making out of this one at home against the Philadelphia 76ers, who have, wow, what's the bigger story? The 76ers actually playing or James Harden not playing?
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, and how strange is that you have a guy that you're just holding out of games in open defiance of the NBA's, it's a written rule now, is it not? Of some sort, although it would be kind of vague how you would enforce this. I don't know what Adam Silver does about this, where you're not supposed to sit marquee players in nationally televised games.
Yep.
Never mind, when they used to do this, and it was horrible in the past. We often talked about this. So where, some poor kid that has like spina bifida or something, it decides, before, and he's got 2 years left to live, and he's had a hard time his entire life, and lives 100 miles from the arena where the game is going to be played. And his parents say, "Hey, you know what? We're going to buy tickets to go see LeBron James play when he comes to town here." And you're sitting somewhere in Oklahoma City, and the guy gets in the truck, drives the 100 miles to the arena, has paid a fortune for these tickets because LeBron is always going to be a marquee player that's going to command, high demand for these sort of things. And then, like at game time, you see LeBron in a suit.
Yep.
Not even a suit, like a jumpsuit. All right. He's wearing some kind of athletic outfit, like he was one of the wise guys in the corner of the Borgata race book there, going, "Hey, Lou, you got my money?" And he's on the bench, and poor little crippled Johnny, has to watch a bunch of scrubs go out there and lose by 30 points. As maybe the home team prevails, and he was happy about that, but he doesn't get to see a star. It'd be like Taylor Swift announcing right at concert time that she wasn't going to sing tonight, but we do have somebody else in her place.
Yes, it actually is just like that. And people, these teams don't act like it. The Harden thing, I don't know. You sort of have an idea about Harden.
I don't know that I would pay to see Harden at this point.
That's the thing. The Harden
I'd be almost happier if he wasn't in the lineup. Honestly, I think you might get a better game, no?
The Sixers look like it. I mean, your guy Maxey really shines when Harden's not there. Like, it's almost like, do we play him? Do we, like, they all played better. Harris and Maxey play so much better. Now, Embiid, I don't know what's his problem. He was horrendous in the fourth quarter. He was almost non-existent.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. They needed him desperately. But when Lillard was going off, which made every Heat fan sick to their stomach.
Heat fans were spitting up pea soup like Linda Blair in The Exorcist.
So sick.
Watching this performance last night by Damian Lillard and thinking, that could have been us. That was our guy. Except for this Joe Cronin cat who decided to stick it to everybody right up the rear end. And interestingly, you have the Heat and the Celtics, which is a rematch of their bloodbath of a series that they had last year for the NBA Eastern Conference Championship and the right to go on and lose to the Nuggets, which I think either team would have done.
Yes.
Some would speculate that maybe the Celtics would have given the Nuggets a better battle last year, but the Nuggets were just clearly superior to anybody else at that point in the season and maybe throughout the entire year. They sort of, put it on cruise control a little bit in the last third of the season as they had looking like they had their sights on having all of the advantages wrapped up, including home court advantage throughout the postseason. And they just looked like a vastly superior team to everybody else once they got to the postseason, which they had kind of demonstrated earlier in the year. But the Celtics and the Heat, this what would be a very interesting matchup tonight, as Boston looked real good for most of their game against the New York Knicks, but only won by 4.
Yep.
And the Heat, taking on a lesser opponent in the Detroit Pistons, the upstart Detroit Pistons, who, again, it is baffling. I mean, as a sports fan, how can you be bad forever, Lubie, when you have every advantage in the world? Where you're drafting in the NBA like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in a row. You're horrendous year after year after year. And no matter what you do, no matter how many coaching changes you make, no matter how much money you pay some of these guys that are still on your roster, you can't get it together. You're still playing like crap.
Well, that's the thing is, like, yes, they get screwed. Like, Pistons didn't have the number 1 pick. But look at all the guys that become great that aren't top 5 picks. Damian Lillard was like a 10th pick. Giannis was in the teens. Jokic is a 2nd rounder. Like, so if you're drafting the top 5, then you should definitely get a guy that's good, because all these other guys are good and they're nowhere near the top 5.
What happened to scouting, man? Has it all gone to the Stevie Wonder School of Scouting? Did the analytics guys, they just so overwhelmingly overrule people that actually have like tangible experience in trying to assess and judge talent? I mean, you can look at certain players, Lubie, can you not, and say that this guy looks like he's going to be a performer and should be able to transition his skills to a higher level once he goes from, say, college to the NBA, like you did when you told us to take Justice Winslow over Devin Booker with the Miami Heat. Justice Winslow, a renowned bricklayer. And Devin Booker, of course, will blossom into one of the top pros, although people are starting to put the knock on him that maybe he's not a championship caliber player. I would imagine if he was cruising with some of those Golden State crews, he would have been just fine, right? So, that's the big misnomer about assessing an athlete and having it be factored in that, well, like you were saying about Marino, well, he never won a championship. It's a tough criteria to go by because it depends on so many factors. Far less, though, in the NBA, where it does look like Damian Lillard might be the difference maker with the Milwaukee Bucks. Do they just get the NBA title? Do they hand him to Larry O'Brien right now after one game and a 1-point victory over a depleted Sixers team that still has to deal with Harden?
Have a lot of issues, and they won by 1. Like, Lillard went off. Lillard had 14 in the last 4 minutes. And they won by 1. Like, it's not, that's the thing. This Bucks team to me is very top heavy. And I'm curious if they don't topple over. Like, I think they're going to be great in the regular season. I'm curious to see them in the playoffs.
When you need Does this guy Morey ever show up at any Sixers games? Because it seems like the universe hates this guy. LeBron hates him because he was honest about the whole China situation. Harden hates him because supposedly he's lied to him, deceived him the entire time. And now Adam Silver hates him for sitting a supposed superstar player, guy that is James Harden. Do you have to say, even though people don't seem to have a great affinity for Harden, how do you keep him out of the Basketball Hall of Fame?
Oh, no. He's won, I think, multiple MVPs. He's a great player.
Yeah.
He's just
old and bitter. I guess. Yeah. At this point, too. And the great thing was that they were saying that what's terrific about Harden is that he's actually in shape this year.
Oh, that's funny.
Which is incredible. I think Charles Barkley is absolutely right on this with regards to this kind of issue and the load management thing. If you're getting paid $50 million to play basketball 3 or 4 nights a week, can't you play every game?
Yes, you should. Or
at least... Wouldn't you want to play every game just to justify the fact that you have been accorded this unbelievable lifestyle? So that whole load management thing needs to go right out the window. I guess they could always fake injury list, but at that point, you might be able to subject the team to some kind of consequence, in terms of robbing them of draft picks or whatever, or taking them away, or finding them, compromising situations, that would inhibit them from excelling. They need to do something about that, don't they? I mean, it's just a total ripoff. Imagine you pay to see The Rock wrestle, and instead you get the mass Marvel out of Milwaukee, some guy that was at a carnival in his last main event. You're going to feel ripped off, are you not? You're going to be screaming 100%. Like everybody else. McMahon, what is this shit?
100%. So, the teams and the players act like it's nothing. It's not nothing. It's a big deal. Michael Jordan, as much as I couldn't stand him, I give him credit because he played. He said, look, this could be the first time or only time someone gets to see me play. So I want to put on a show. And Magic Johnson was very much like that. Kareem, I understand the investment in these players is utterly ridiculous. So you want to make sure they're ready for the playoffs. I get that. But it also does suck the other way, like it does. And you can't act like it doesn't.
Poor little Johnny, right?
It's true.
He schleps all the way to the arena, then, has to get into a wheelchair. They wheel him in there, and he doesn't even know this, right? You're looking at Greg Popovich, and he's drinking a bottle of Lafite Rothschild, which, for me, a fine wine would be a bottle of Lafite Pink Eye. But and he doesn't care that he's got 8 scrubs out there and that everybody paid high money, big money for these tickets. Absolutely ridiculous. All right. And speaking of tickets, without John Morant, you know that you can get into the Memphis Grizzlies game tonight for $8. $8. It's going to cost you $138 for the cheapest ticket to the Celtics and the Heat in Beantown. $8 without.
Oh, and it's in Boston.
Yeah, that's in Boston. So that'll be a pricey ticket, unless you know Whitey Bulger.
Exactly.
And he's anointed, or appropriated tickets for you from the grave. You're in trouble if you're trying to cop a ticket to that game in Beantown. All right, that's it. Ugliness being displayed there early on in the NBA. Although, and I know you were feeling pain with that Damian Lillard thing.
It made me sick to my stomach.
You don't get the player, and then he goes off like that.
It was annoying.
In his opening game, and is a difference maker in a 1-point game against another team that you figure is going to be an Eastern Conference contender. It's known in the trade as such ugliness, my friend. Such ugliness. All right. Always take the points. Buffalo Bills, completely dominant in the game last night. Barely scraped out of it with the victory, period. Lost at a point spread. And once again, they're blowing taps for the chalk players there when it comes to the NFL. Play the unders. That would be our suggestion over the weekend. Although that's probably going to be a trend now that we're on it that reverses completely. Always late to the party, Lubie. Always late to the party. Well, we're glad you guys joined us this morning. We're a little harsh because we're a little bitter about losing that Buffalo game last night. And let's get home the Arizona Diamondbacks at 50-1, my friend. How much do we hedge off? $5,000 if it hits for the $100 wager.
$1,000. I would do $1,000.
You have to lay 170. You have to lay 170 to win $100 on the Texas Rangers in this thing. So you would have to win $1,000. Wow, you would have to lay out 1,700.
Oh, 17.
So you're either going to win 3,300 or win a dime. What do you think? Is it worth the hedge?
At least you win either way. Like at this point, to have ridden them out.
You would want to have a lock. Yes, you would want to have a lock
to get nothing.
Yeah, but don't you? Then Arizona wins it, and you feel like a fool, right?
Yeah, but
that's the nature of the beast, being a degenerate. That's why degenerate gamblers die with their mouths wide open. As it flashes in the white light, the amount of money that you've lost lifetime by being a fool. All right, have a good weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday with the next edition of the Morning Briefing. From Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for joining us right here on NoFilter.net.